From multiple days of severe weather being likely across the Great Plains to a tropical storm or hurricane likely to form by the end of this week in the eastern Pacific Ocean, this is your Chonquita weather forecast. First of all, looking at the current Day 1 SPC severe weather outlook, you can see for today we have two main areas to watch. We have a slight risk of severe weather mainly across western Kansas, northeastern Colorado, western Nebraska, into southeastern Wyoming and southwestern South Dakota, and we have another slight risk of severe weather across parts of the southeast United States and the Mississippi River Valley. We have a small 2% tornado risk for today, mainly across the panhandle of Nebraska into eastern Colorado, into western Kansas, where you can see an isolated tornado or two later today. We also have a 30% damaging wind risk across western Tennessee, northeastern Arkansas, northern Mississippi, into northwestern Alabama. Is not a enhanced risk of severe weather since there is no SIG area added to that area. But make sure to pay attention to future outlooks in case something changes with that. There is also a 15% damaging wind risk across portions of the Mississippi River Valley as well, into portions of the southeast United States, and we have another one mainly across western Nebraska, into northeastern Colorado, into western and central Kansas. And we do have a 15% hail risk for today, mainly across the western slight risk area from southwestern South Dakota into central Kansas and western Nebraska, northeastern Colorado, where you can see some scattered large hail today. We do have a SIG 1 area across the Nebraska Panhandle to northeastern Colorado into northwestern Kansas, where we can see some hail potentially reaching out to the size of baseballs later today. So if you're in that area, make sure you prepare for some very large hail later this afternoon. Next, look at your Day 2 severe weather outlook for tomorrow. You can see you have a slight risk of severe weather mainly across central North Dakota and western South Dakota. We also have a marginal risk from the Texas Panhandle and eastern New Mexico all the way into eastern Montana and much of North Dakota, and we have another marginal risk of severe weather across portions of the southeast United States. For tornado risk tomorrow, we mainly have a 2% tornado risk across western South Dakota into central North Dakota. We could see a couple isolated tornadoes tomorrow. No strong tornado threat has been added for tomorrow, so that's looking good. For our damaging wind risk for tomorrow, we have a 50% damaging wind risk across those same areas in South Dakota and North Dakota, and the marginal risk areas have a 5% damaging wind risk where you can see some isolated damaging wind gusts up to 65 miles an hour. And for our hail risk for tomorrow, we currently have a 50% hail risk across the slight risk area again. We have a SIG 1 area across western North Dakota into western South Dakota. And our 5% hail risk extends from the Texas Panhandle and eastern New Mexico all the way into eastern Montana and much of North Dakota. Next, look at your Day 3 severe weather outlook for Wednesday. You can see we currently have a small slight risk of severe weather across northeastern South Dakota, eastern North Dakota, and a sliver of northwestern Minnesota. Our marginal risk extends from the extreme northern portion of the Texas Panhandle all the way into central North Dakota and western Minnesota. For our probabilistic outlook, you can see we have the 15% risk area and the 5% risk area there. No SIG areas have been added yet. If we go down to their discussion here, you can see that they are mainly talking about some large hail and severe wind gusts will be possible. It's not going to be a super good environment for tornadoes. I don't think we're even mentioning tornadoes at all in this discussion here. But there could still be a small chance for an isolated tornado or two, so make sure you pay attention to future forecasts on my channel, and make sure to keep checking the SPC website for some future updates on this severe weather threat. And now look at our Day 4 for 8 severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. You can see we now have a day 4 15% risk area across the western Nebraska area, especially the Nebraska Panhandle, into western South Dakota, into northeastern Wyoming, and southeastern Montana, If we go down to the discussion here for the day 4 through 6, you can see they are talking about some large hail and severe wind gusts being possible with few supercells and an isolated tornado threat there. So make sure you pay attention to future forecasts on my channel again and keep checking the SPC website for some future official updates. Next, we do have some updates on our excessive rainfall outlooks from the Weather Prediction Center. So, you can see for today, we have 4 main areas to watch. We have a marginal risk of excessive rainfall across the mid-Mississippi Valley. We have another one across the central Great Plains. We have another one across southeastern New Mexico and western Texas. And we have another one across northern Montana. If you're in any of those areas, you can see some isolated flash flooding in your area, but it doesn't look too significant. But make sure you still have multiple ways to receive severe weather alerts and flash flood warnings, especially if you involves risk zones for today or the coming days. Next, we'll give a day 2 excessive rainfall outlook. You can see for tomorrow we currently have a slight risk of excessive rainfall across western Texas into eastern New Mexico. We have a marginal risk of excessive rainfall from the upper Great Plains all the way down to much of New Mexico and more portions of western Texas, and another one across portions of the southeastern United States. If you're in the slight risk of flash flooding, you can see some more significant flash flooding and some higher coverage. So make sure you have multiple ways to receive weather alerts again for severe weather and flash flooding. And if you're a marginal risk, again, the risk doesn't look super high, but still make sure you have the multiple ways to receive the flash flood warnings. And now looking at our day 3 excessive rainfall outlook, you can see for Wednesday we have a slight risk of excessive rainfall across southeastern New Mexico and more of western Texas. The marginal risk extends from western Minnesota all the way down into central Texas and eastern Arizona. Again, if you're in the slight risk area, you can see some more significant flash flooding, so make sure you have the multiple ways to receive the severe river alerts and the flash flood warnings. And if you have a marginal risk, just keep paying attention to the forecast because things can change, and make sure you keep paying attention to official forecasts from the Weather Prediction Center. Next, looking at the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center, you can see we have a couple areas to watch on the eastern Pacific Ocean. We have this high chance of development system out here, relatively southeast of Hawaii. It has a 40% chance of forming within 48 hours, so the chances are still relatively low, but it will likely form sometime in the next 3 to 5 days, as it does have a 90% chance of forming for the next 7 days. They are saying there's a broad area of low pressure located well southwest of the southern tip of Baja California Peninsula area. It continues to produce some disorganized showers and thunderstorms. They're saying the environment is conducive for a development in a tropical depression or a tropical storm, maybe even a hurricane, confirmed by the middle part of this week to the end part of this week, while it's moving westward or west-northwestward at about 10 to 15 miles an hour across the eastern Pacific Ocean. And we have this other system we have to watch for saying the area of low pressure confirmed offshore of Central America and southern Mexico late this week or over the weekend, and environmental conditions do appear favorable for some development of the system after it forms while it moves westward to west-northwestward about 10 miles an hour. Within the next 7 days, it does have a 30% chance of formation, but its probabilities will likely continue to go up as we get more information about the system. Next, we do have some updates on the official forecast from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center on Typhoon Jangmi. You can see right now it's located near the island with the city of Kadena there. Kadena is likely experiencing some tropical storm force winds right now. Right now, Jamie is about at 55 knots, which is 65 miles an hour, and is expected to retain that intensity as it moves up towards mainland Japan, where it will bring some sustained winds of around 40 miles an hour to up to around 60 to 65 miles an hour, and eventually it will bring some significant winds to Tokyo with wind speeds sustained around 45 to around 60 miles an hour. So if you're in Tokyo, make sure you're prepared for that, and it will continue to expand since it will be extratropical by the time, and it will slowly weaken and gradually weaken as it starts to turn very much to the east, and in the long term it will likely just hang out around the Arctic Circle area. That's usually where a lot of these extratropical typhoons go. They can go up towards Alaska and stuff, but we're not too certain what the forecast will be for the extratropical system as of now. Finally, look at the satellite imagery for a 90% chance of development area of interest in the Eastern Pacific Ocean. You can see it's relatively disorganized still, but it has some nicer thunderstorms. We're just starting to get some daylight on it, so you can see the thunderstorms separate from just the cloud tops better, and you can see it's also starting to get a little bit more organized, and it will likely continue to do this over the next few days as it continues to get organized and it continues to strengthen into a tropical depression or tropical storm. You can see as of right now, it is continuing to have some more thunderstorms popping up. You can see them popping up over the last few hours here. There's actually been like several of them popping up actually, which means that's a sign of it strengthening. It is an area of low pressure, you just really can't see the rotation all right now since it's so disorganized, but I will keep you guys updated over the next several days on this system. Anyways, that is the end of today's weather forecast. If you're in the impacted areas for the severe weather and flash flooding over the next few days, make sure you keep paying attention to official forecasts, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel and turning on notifications so you are alerted when I have new weather forecasts out, talking about the tropical activity and the severe weather and even more. And I will see you on the next weather forecast tomorrow. Goodbye!